Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to the Zombicide Invader Civilian Pack Part 2. So Part 1 we went over all the different Xenos, the new abominations, and the two different new bots, the new Sentry bot and regular bot. And then if you want to go check out the original Zombicide Invaders to find out Part 1 to find out the rules, kind of how to play, what it is, in case you're familiar, you hopped into this for some reason. Or you can check out the part 2 of that one where we go over the survivors and abominations from the base game. So here we're just going to go over the survivors. This will be a longer video. I know I said in part 1 I was going to do a long one, but I decided to split the good guys and bad guys up. But we're going to go through all of these characters. There's going to be quite a few of them. And we'll read off all their abilities and skills as we go along, but we're only going to read them once each time. So, for wondering why I'm talking about survivors, and I have an abomination up here, because I forgot to put him in part 1. This is another mold spawn abomination. So you get an additional extra one in this Kickstarter pack. So if you are... so I can make the guy even deadlier, because that's one of the ways you can definitely lose the game, is by having two of these guys out, and they can try and work together to fill in them mold spawns. So I just wanted to show that off really quick, that we did get a second one of those. Alright, we're going to jump right into this. Our first survivor is Captain Warlock. And I mentioned in the original unboxing video, as well as in part 1 of this Kickstarter box, is there's a lot of homages to these characters. I will try and point them out when I can, and if I know who they are, I don't know who every single character is. But I will definitely try my best. So, alright, we have Captain Warlock here, who's a very generic-y pirate type looking guy. He got the eye patch, so he's a space pirate. He also has a little dragon on his shoulder. I don't know if he specifically references any direct person, but like right off the bat, my thought was he very much represents Kitty Pryde from the X-Men, just because he has the little dragon, reminds me of Lockheed. And then kind of like that Corsair is also from Marvel Comics, who's a space pirate. So it kind of reminded me of that sort of feel. And that's what I got from him. So he starts out with his blue ability, which is Charge. So we probably went over some of these in the base game, but we'll go over them here first. So Charge's survivor can use a skill once per turn to move up to 2 zones containing at least 1 Xeno. So yeah, he can jump in and get into the battle quicker. And of course, the yellow means he's a civilian, so he only has 2 health or armor to begin with. Yellow action is always a +1 action. Then in his orange, he gets +1 free melee action or +1 free ranged action. So it gives you an option on which way do you want to play him. Do you want to have more melee or more range? Then when you hit red, he can also get an additional free move action. Or he can get hit and run and shove. Now, we've seen shove before, so I'll reread that one quick. Can use this once per turn for free. Select a zone at 1 range from your survivor. Both zones need to share a clear path, but no line of sight is needed. All Xenos standing in your survivor's zone are pushed to the selected zone. This is not a movement. Basically, you can shove Xenos out of your area to somewhere else. So he has that interesting charge shove mechanic, where you can shove guys away, and then charge a different direction, go after a different group of enemies, or you could charge and attack them, do your extra free melee or ranged action, then shove them away to get away. But additionally, if you don't want to use shove, you could do hit and run. Survivor can use this skill for free just after they resolve a melee or ranged action. resulting in at least one Xeno being eliminated. They can resolve a free move action. Survivor does not spend extra actions to perform this free move if Xenos are standing in their zone. So hit and run is a really fun ability. So basically what it means, if you defeat at least one Xeno, you get a free movement and you're not hindered by everybody else. So this could mean either you either get in there if you can't defeat all of them, as long as you eliminated at least one, it lets you get out quick. Or if you eliminated the last one, it can get you a free movement closer to the next group. If you're trying to keep taking them out. So if it's like your first action of the game, you can do your free charge, get in there, you take one out on your first, your free melee action, then you could then use hit and run to move to another zone. So now that means on the beginning of the turn, you still have if you've done all of those, you still have your regular 4 actions after that. You've eliminated at least some guys. So that's actually kind of cool. You do not have to run if you get that. Alright. That is our first guy up. We'll set him back over there. Up next, we're going to look at Butcher Carl. So this is the other thing I loved about the Kickstarter characters, is there's aliens and other things in there. The base game, pretty much it was all either Marine soldiers, like human soldiers, or it was human civilians. So here we're going to get some aliens and stuff, which just help fill the galaxy out a little bit more. The galaxy. Flesh out the world. If there's aliens, why can't there be alien races as well? So you have Butcher Carl here, who has combat reflexes. Whenever any Xenos spawn within their line of sight, the survivor may perform an immediately free combat action against them. This action may eliminate more Xenos than have spawned. Ranged actions must still be aimed at the zone where the Xenos spawned, and used it once per Xeno card. So it's cool there is if Xenos spawn and he can shoot 3 spaces away, he gets a free shoot action. If they spawn in the area he's at, he gets a free melee action. And then it lets say you can eliminate more, so if it spawns and only 2 guys spawn, but you did 4 damage, you could take out 4 guys. You don't have to worry about just eliminating the ones in that zone. So that can kind of help these guys to stick someone like him, depending if you're going range or melee, he can stick closer to the spawn zones and try and take guys out as they come without having to spend extra actions. So once he gets to his orange, he has that one free ranged action, which could definitely help, or enhanced senses. Enhanced senses, the survivor can trace one line of sight further into room zones. They also ignore dark zone rules, which dark zone was not featured in this current expansion. It's in the one of the extra expansions for the game. So I'm not gonna get too much of that. Basically, all it means is if the lights are off, and there's a dark tile on the board, you can't see through that thing. So even if you can shoot at 5 range, if you're 1 space away from a dark room, you can only shoot into the dark, but you can't shoot all the way through it. You can't see in the dark. But he lets him ignore him. He uses his animal instincts, I guess. It's kind of cool. Then he hits red, he has 1 free melee action, 1 free ranged action, or +1 die roll to combat. So it gives him some good options. If he's getting up close, get the extra free melee. If he's able to stay at range, give him the extra free range. Or if you're feeling good with the number of actions you have, you can always just go ahead and add 1 to the die roll and try and make either of your attacks more powerful. Alright, our third character. No, again, this is I don't believe there's any characters this is an homage to that I know of. Up next, we have Nutra Satar. This is a Catman, of course. Again, if we're going back into the Marvel comics, you could probably say this is very Wolverine-esque. Cat-like character with 3 big old claws. I would also link this one to being very, like I mentioned it with the Captain character, that seemed like, from Marvel comic base, that seemed like Corsair, who's the leader of the Starjammers, who's a space-faring team. this would also then kind of lead to be like Hezebuff, Hezebath, who's a cat-like creature in that comic book and that team as well. So that could be maybe the link they have with these characters. So Nura here starts with 1 free melee action. Just right off the bat, get an extra free action. Get the yellow, get another action. Not bad at all. In orange, I have 1 guy for ranged. In case you want to switch away from your melee, or Bloodlust melee. So Bloodlust are fun attacks. Survivor can use a skill once during each of their turns. The survivor spends 1 action, they move up to 2 zones to a zone containing at least 1 Xeno, then they gain 1 free action of the specified type. So basically it gets them essentially a free charge / melee action. Which is definitely not a bad thing to have. Jump right in there to do some extra damage. And then red we have 1 free combat action, plus 1 zone per move, so they can move 2 zones instead of 1. And then finally Reaper Combat. So Reaper Combat does use a skill when assigning hits while resolving an action of the specified type, combat, melee, or ranged. One of these can freely eliminate an additional identical Xeno in the same zone. Only a single additional Xeno can be eliminated when using this skill. And you gain the experience. So what that means is if Nura gets into a zone with a worker Xeno, the basic one, kills 2 of them, they can eliminate 1 additional one for free. The same thing would happen if they eliminate the hunter or a tank. Basically, as long as they defeat something, they can defeat another one of the same type. Which again, combined with that Bloodlust melee to get in there quicker and get an extra action or the extra free melee action, you could definitely do some good, eliminate a lot of things very quickly. Because it's only every action. So, realistically, you start with 3, you get 4, you have a 5th melee action, plus this lets you have to spend 1 of your points to do it, so it's only still 4, but it lets you get up and close really quick. But you have, 5 melee actions in there. If you spend 1 of those, that's 4. So you have 4 melee actions once you get in there, because that one's also 1. So you have 5 attacks total. You can eliminate a lot of guys if you pick that ability and you get lucky. So that's definitely cool there. Then our next guy up is Dorian Gray, who's a little alien, a gray alien. I don't know if he really references too much otherwise, other than just being a gray alien type character. But he has the enhanced senses as well, like Carl did, the Butcher. Plus 1 action, and then we have Taunt. Taunt is a fun ability. Survivor can use the skill once for free during each of their turns. Select the zone up to 2 zones away from a survivor, and having a clear path to the survivor, no wall or closed doors. No line of sight is needed, though. So basically saying it can go around, like you can taunt around a corner, as long as there's a pathway to get to them. All Xenos stand select their zone immediately getting extra activation. They try and reach the taunting survivor by any means. Taunting Xenos ignore all other survivors, do not attack them, and leave the zones they're standing if needed to reach the taunting survivor. So basically it lets you pull the Xenos away from somebody else. Which can be very helpful for them surviving. And then we have Xenolink, if you'd like to do that instead. Xenolink says, survivor plays an extra turn each time an extra activation card, not the abomination cards, is drawn. They play before the extra activated Xenos. If several survivors benefit from this skill, the players choose their turn order. So that's kind of a neat one as well. If you're getting those extra activations, you can use him to get an extra free turn. There's not a ton of them, so it's not going to be active as often. But what's that, or Taunt? If you don't feel like you're going to want to taunt people, that might be worth taking just for the fact you might get to use it. Then it's red, he has 1 free combat action, camouflage, and shove. So we haven't seen camouflage yet. The survivor may earn a camouflage token, which is going to look like that. It comes in the base game. Place this token next to their base. The survivor may keep the token even from a game round to the next until they resolve any type of combat or machine action or making noise. They may be earned again. It may be earned again the same way. As long as they have this token, survivor is ignored by all Xenos. It is not considered a noise token. Xenos don't attack them and will even move past them. Even with the camouflage token, the survivor still has to spend extra actions to move out of zones with crowded Xenos. So that's kind of cool. You basically can shove camouflage on and you can dodge. Now, that could work really great with taunt. Because you could taunt guys towards you, then camouflage, and then they would just ignore you once they get near you. So that's kind of fun. Alright, so the reason I picked these 4 specific survivors to start with is because although they're in the Kickstarter box, you can also pick up the Survivors of the Galaxy expansion, so you can get these 4 guys in retail if you don't want to buy the full thing. Also comes with the Babyface Abomination. So that's kind of cool, is if you wanted to get these 4 guys specifically, and an extra Abomination, but you couldn't pick up the Kickstarter pack, you can at least get these 4 guys. I just wanted to do those first because they're the only 4 that are available outside of it. It's also funny that Survivors of the Galaxy is supposed to clearly be a reference to Guardians of the Galaxy type of idea. But like even like going through them characters, none of them really gave off the Guardians of the Galaxy feel, which would have been like, you know, Star-Lord and, you know, like Star-Lord, Drax, yeah, Groot, Rocket Raccoon, and Gamora. I mean, you could argue Piratey Captain, sort of Star-Lord, the Cat Lady, sort of a Gamora, you know, the Butcher, the Hawk, you could argue he might be Drax, he's a big giant guy, or he's a gun-loving animal, like Rocket, but I still think that'd be kind of a stretch for them. I feel like more they're almost like the X-Men Starjammer characters, but that is me and my thought. Alright, let's hop into another character. So speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, we're going to jump into Cloud, which is clearly Nebula inspired from Guardians of the Galaxy. Except it's a male type character, and Cloud being Nebula, like Nebulous, being like a cloud type. Yeah, so sword, or like not sword, more like a baton, but a gun, mechanical arm, and of course they made him a male instead, just to throw off. But he's also a soldier type. So we have roll 6 plus 1 die for combat. This is a fun ability as well. So what this means is, if I can find it in here. Okay, so you may roll an additional die for each 6 roll down action of the specified type. Keep on rolling additional dice as long as you keep getting 6. Game effects allow you to rerolls must be used before rolling any additional for this skill. So what that means is they do any combat, if you roll a 6, you get to reroll another dice. So if you're normally rolling 2 dice for your stun baton that you start with, and you happen to roll a 6, you can roll another die. If you roll another 6, you can roll a 4th die. And that can keep going indefinitely as long as you can keep rolling 6s. So that's actually pretty fun. So we have plus 1 action. We have in our orange, we have full auto and predator. Full auto says when resolving a ranged attack, the survivor may substitute the dice number of the ranged weapons they use with the number of Xenos standing in the zone. Affecting dice like plus 1 die still apply. So what does that mean? again, if we're using like one of the basic weapons, let's say it has 2 dice. So instead of rolling 2 dice, if there are 5 Xenos in there, you can roll 5 dice, 1 for each Xeno in there. If there's 3 in there, you gotta roll 3 dice. So basically, the more Xenos are, the more dice you gotta roll, the better chance you have of doing stuff. Then if you also had an additional bonus on there that said like +1 to like ranged attacks, you also add 1 to that ranged attack. And then we have Predator. Resolving a melee action, the survivor may substitute the dice number of the melee weapons with the number of Xenos standing in the zone. So this is kind of neat. So Cloud can either use, if they roll 6s, they get to keep rolling extra, and then they can choose to either be ranged or melee and get to roll a bunch of extra dice. Just pretty powerful. Then we have Lucky down there, starting with our red. For each action a survivor takes, you may choose to reroll all dice an additional time. The new results replace the previous ones. So again, that could work really well with either of them. Now you're rolling more dice, and if you roll really badly, you have the opportunity to fix that. And then the last 2 is Remote Control Bot and Remote Control Sentry Gun. And these just allow you to control either of those on your turn from a distance without having to be next to them. So you can either move the bot or you can attack with either of them. And this could be very powerful, especially if we use the ones from the Kickstarter, which do a lot of extra damage. This guy could be very overpowered. That is one thing that is really fun about these Kickstarter stretch goal characters, is they are unbalanced. And so like, why is unbalancing fun? Because if you want to play the game safe, you want to play it like very even, give yourself a very, very good, very rough challenge, play with just the base game characters. They have general skills but in the Kickstarter, you're going to get guys like this who are going to have super overpowered or ridiculous type abilities or combinations, which can make the game a lot more fun. Because it just ups the difficulty on stuff. I was really wishing my camera would pick up the detail on these miniatures a little bit better. Alright. Okay, that's that. Let's jump into our next character, or survivor. We'll go with this soldier guy, who is Preacher Carl. He reminds me of back in the 90s, they had a cartoon which you had a big giant, I can't remember the name of it now, but you had a big giant jet that had little action figures and all that, but it worked as a light gun that you shot to TV like Duck Hunt. He reminds me of those guys, and I'm sure someone can probably remind me of that. So Preacher Carl does have a reference here to Judge Dredd character. So he kind of looks with the helmet, with the half-mast helmet. He kind of looks like one of the characters from the Judge Dredd, although that was more urban survival versus space survival. And then the other nod to that would be Carl, because in the one of the more recent Doom movies, he was played by Carl Urban. So that's kind of the reference in there. So he starts with 6 armor points. He's also a soldier, so he's a nice, good tank character. So it's 3 extra health. He has charge, so he can get right in there, and then he has Reaper ranged. So as he kills stuff with ranged damage, he can kill additional ones. +1 free range action, Ironclad Worker, and Point Blank. So we have some new ones in there. Point Blank, a survivor can perform ranged actions in their own zone, no matter the minimum range. When resolving a range at 0, survivor freely chooses targets and can eliminate any type of Xeno. Their ranged damage still needs to inflict enough damage to eliminate targets. Friendly fire is ignored. So essentially, you're treating your range like melee attacks. You can choose what Xeno you take out. You don't have to worry about hitting your allies. So that can definitely be great, especially then when you combine that with that Reaper, because he can be right in the same zone as guys and kill them. So that's pretty cool. But if you like to go the other route, we have Ironclad Worker. Ironclad Xenotype says survivors ignore all damage from the coming Xenos have indicated keywords in its name. Ironclad Worker works for any workers, for example. So regular workers, seeker workers, if the expansions add more, they can block that. So that makes this guy a literal extra tank for that, because he can run in and try and kill things, but he won't take damage from workers. So if there's workers and then a hunter and a tank, he's going to focus on the hunters and tanks first, because the workers aren't going to hurt him. They'll get in his zone and they'll kind of draw him off. They can pick him off as he gets a chance to do so. So that's definitely a fun character there. Alright, up next we have Dr. Steak Freeze, or Steak Fries. So this is one of these ones, all the rest, most of these guys, I don't know the exact homage to them, but I will point out what other people have said, and I didn't do a ton of research on this. I just went to the Board Game Geek website, kind of looked into it and just hey, this is what people think. This is kind of what we'll go with. So if I could be wrong. Some of these might make more sense than others. This one I'm not as sure about. People thought that this guy was supposed to be Morpheus from the Matrix. I don't really see it outside of kind of a black looking guy with with a trench coat on, but that could be a lot of sci-fi characters. And I'm not sure it's Steak Fries is. The thing with these campaigns is sometimes when the characters are unlocked during the stretch goals, they have little stories or information about them, and that sometimes reveals some hints to them, or a line of who they might be. They never directly come out and say, hey, this is like this person. So I'm not for sure on this. Alright, but let's look at his abilities anyhow. He has Boring Leader to start off with. Boring Leader does... I can find it. During the survivor's turn, the survivor may give one free action to another survivor to use as they please. This action is used immediately, then the boring survivor resumes their turn. So this is actually a really fun ability to have as well. So if it's his turn, he can basically look over at somebody else and be like, hey, I need you to do this. And that could have them open a door so that he doesn't have to spend time opening a door. It could have him shoot and try and kill a bunch of zombies in a zone before he gets there. Or if they're in the same zone as him, maybe he has them melee attack, then maybe he can either finish them off or escape. Do a couple different things there. They used their previous turn, they got to him with an objective, but they couldn't pick it up because they ran out of actions. He could go ahead and have them spend that point to do that action. So definitely a cool idea. Then in his orange, he has one free ranged attack and combat reflexes, which we've both seen. His red is one free combat action, the BIA +1 to die roll combat, and escalation combat. So, escalation says survivor gains one extra die for subsequent actions of the specified type. Combat, melee, or range. The bonus is cumulative and applies until the end of the survivor's turn. The bonus is lost whenever the survivor performs in another type of action. So, for example, it's saying if a survivor with escalation range spends their first action, rolls 2 dice, the second action is for another ranged attack, they get to roll 3 dice, and then if the third one's a move, they lose their bonus. So what escalations are really neat ideas. They keep gaining bonuses for doing the same thing over and over. Since he has one free ranged action already, that could potentially give him 5 ranged actions. If he starts at the beginning of his turn, he uses 3 regular, his yellow action, and then his orange ranged action. Yeah, he can do 5 attacks in a row. By the time you get to the 5th one, you're adding 4 extra dice onto your attack. So, that could be really cool. but you might need to move or do something else. Then BIA is an overpowered ability that I love in this game. So BIA is short for Brother in Arms. And how this works, it says the survivor can use this skill whenever they are standing in the same zone as at least one other survivor. As long as Brother in Arms is active, each survivor in the zone, including the one with the skill, benefits from the indicated skill effect. So, if he's standing in the same spot as any other survivor, they both get +1 to all die rolls for combat attacks. The downside to the BIAs are they only work if he's in the same zone as somebody else. So if they move away or he moves away, then he no longer has that ability. So if he's going to be near everybody, it's a great ability to have. If he's going to kind of go off on his own, then it's better to give him one of the other 2 red abilities. But yeah, the BIAs can be very powerful. If you have 3 guys, 4 guys, all your team kind of sticks together right at the bat. Everyone's getting, or not right off the bat, but when you have that ability, everyone gets extra combat rolls, or +1 guy. That can be very helpful. Alright. So that is Dr. Steak Freeze, or Steak Fries. Steak Fries sound delicious right now. That's a side note. This big giant guy is Hugo Harker. So he is supposed to be, at least according to people, Baron Harkonnen from the Dune series. I don't know if that's the Dune TV series. This is before the brand new Dune movie, so it's probably the original Dune. I know that there were some issues during the campaign. Like, I didn't back this at the initial time, so I went through and reread other stuff. But there are some people that had issues because of this character, because they don't think he should have been a good guy. Because I guess in the movie, he's maybe a despicable type character. But not having seen Dune, I know, probably a weird shocker, but I'm not going to comment on that or take that in any consideration on whether the character is fun or not. Heck, if they let me play Xenos, I would play Xenos as well. Or the zombies. Because that's definitely fun. He's got a chainsaw attached to his arm. Has a gun. So he starts with 0G Run. Which does. Survivor may use the skill once during each of their turns. The survivor spends 1 action. They move 2 zones. Ignore everything in the intervening zones except airlocks, walls, and closed doors. Movement-related skills like +1 zone per move or unstoppable are ignored, but movement penalties like having Xenos in a starting zone apply. So this just lets him move, spend 1 action to move 2 zones, but it lets him skip over other guys. So if basically he can move 2 spaces. He can move through a group of Xenos to get around them. So this might be a good character if you're trying to get to an objective quick, because he can just run by guys. Then as Orange, he has Born Leader, which we just saw, which is pretty powerful, and Combat, and Reaper Combat, so he does Reaper for any combat. And his red, he has 1 free melee, 1 free range, or remote control all. So yeah, which kind of action you want to give him, or do you want to let him control some robots? So he's actually a pretty decent, solid character. He can get around, get through stuff quick. He can help out your team by giving them commands. Or you can get extra actions or control the bots. Not too much else to say about that. Just, pretty interesting. Alright, let's zoom up on him a little bit more. Alright, let's hop into our next character. Kick him off the board. We have this lovely lady here with the dual guns, who's a soldier. I like we get some of these soldiers that aren't just guys in big mech suits. Which is the same thing. Getting aliens is fun, getting some guys in different things. So, if we kind of zoom in on her, she has these big old, controlled arms. I don't know what they exactly are. Like a mech suit type thing. So they're saying that she is, which hard for me to find this because my list, I have the list of the full names of the characters, not their rank, which is major. So, like, I have Vanessa Sharpgun's actually, I went off the actual names of the characters that are in their bios. So they thought this was supposed to be Rita from The Edge of Tomorrow, which I don't remember which actress plays her. But I can kind of see that. This is like the combat suits they picked up in that movie. So that could kind of work out very well. Otherwise, I might say, just looking at it, you can maybe also give a Ellen Ripley vibe from the end of Aliens, where she has the exo-loader, but of course that's a full suit. So she starts with combat reflexes. In her orange, she has 1 free melee action and bloodlust melee. And in red, she has 1 free combat action, plus 1 die roll for melee or predator. So we've seen all those before. We can clearly see this is a physical character. She's going to get up and punch things. Whether you want her to have that bloodlust and be able to charge in, or you just want to give her a regular free melee action. Or when you get into red, you can give her extra combat, which could give her potential range if you need it, or that predator dice roll. So yeah, fairly straightforward character, but definitely not bad at all. Alright, up next we have Squirrely. So Squirrely is, if I can find him on my list, so this is actually kind of a fun one. So they have listed as, in the bio he's listed, his name is 19-82, for the year 1982. And this is Roy Beatty from the Blade Runner movie. I haven't seen lots of these sci-fi movies, so I can't really comment too much on that. But yeah, it's supposed to be a character from the original Blade Runner, or based off of it, So as a civilian, he has 1 free search action, which just lets him perform an additional search each turn. Normally, you only have 1 you can do, regardless of how many actions you have. So that's definitely helpful. And then in orange, 1 free range, or plus 1 die roll for melee. Gives you some freedom on what you'd like to do. In red, we have bloodlust combat, enhanced senses, and super strength. So we haven't seen super strength yet. Super strength is considered damage out of melee weapons to be used by the survivor to be 3. So this lets him use melee to kill anything, because he does 3 damage with it as long as he hits. Just ties in really well with that plus 1 die roll for melee, because it would let you do the extra damage. Or get 1 extra guy to have a better chance to hit. Just be able to get hit for 3 and actually hitting are 2 different things. So that's actually a really cool character there. Kind of runs around, finds stuff, but if he gets into combat, he can definitely hold his own. Alright, our next character is Pinky. So much like Squirrely, has the little quotes around it, this one's also listed as 20-19 Pink, so for 2019. Although someone says this should be Pris from the original Blade Runner, I'm wondering if it's based more off a character from the updated Blade Runner, being that their name was 2019, which would have been the year that movie came out. But again, I haven't seen them, so I can't be for sure. She has a big pink hairdo, plus a little gun, and a stun baton. She has that 0G run, which we saw, lets her get moves around a lot. Plus 1 die roll for melee, or brothers in arm, plus 1 die for combat. And then in red, we have 1 free melee action, bloodlust melee, or escalation melee. So this is straight up a melee character. Usually has 0 run to get away from guys or get through guys. But then you can definitely use your melee actions to do some damage. Or stick around with somebody else and give them a bonus as well. If you have another very combat-focused character. You guys can be running together and using both of them at the same time. What was the other Brothers in Arm again? +1 die to dice roll for combat. So if you had Pink and Dr. Steak Fries together and they're both using their Brothers in Arms, you get +1 die roll. +1 to your dice rolls for combat, +1 die roll. So not only we roll an extra one, everything would have better accuracy. So if you had both of them, they could do some serious damage. Yeah, so, solid character. Not too much else to say about that. Let's move on. We got a lot to go through. As I keep going through all the abilities, I'll probably hop through them all a little bit quicker. Then up we have 8-Ball, who has another name like that. Also known as Igor Souza. So, this particular character is based on, and I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong, Thago, which is one of the Simon Company employees. This is one of the guys that works for the game that does Zombicide. I was in the forums and stuff, really cool. So they kind of based it looking on that character. She's got an 8-Ball in the chest, but I like the pose is actually pretty cool too. Arms down. I don't know how on earth you would ever paint that 8-Ball though. Like you can see it's a little bulge on the chest. Some ammo in the back. But this, of course, looks like a ranged character. So we have Duel Expert. Duel Expert we have not seen before. It does... A survivor has a free combat action as long as they have dual weapons equipped. The action may be used only with dual weapons equipped. Now, it doesn't care if it's dual melee or dual ranged. But yeah, they get free actions as long as they have dual weapons. That's actually pretty cool. In orange, we have +1 die for range or remote control all. In red, we have +1 die for combat, 1 free machine action, or 1 free ranged action. So yeah, do you want extra additional die? Do you want extra free attack? Or do you want to go the other route and have remote control in your machines and then give them free actions as well? Which could also be very powerful. Yeah, so that is definitely cool. I'm trying to find the next guy. Alright. Yeah, definitely neat, different combination of stuff in there. Our next guy is we have this Greaser looking character. I called him Greaser and I realized his name was Greaser. I did not do that intentionally. He just looks like the like an old Greaser movie. Slick back hair, black jacket. Pretty basic looking character. Not a bad thing. I mean, he just looks like a thug guy you'd see in an alley versus like a space explorer. So this is Gavin Greaser Morley, who is based on, again, according to the list I have, Paul Boner, or Bonner, not sure which way it's pronounced, who's an artist for Zombicide. You wouldn't be surprised if he drew this card, or most of these cards, because a lot of these have the same artwork. Let's see if it has a credits page in here. No, he did not do the art on this set. But he's done art for a lot of other Zombicide games. So yeah, they might have just been like, hey, here's an homage to you and your character. So that's actually cool, and they do that as well. It's not just famous movie characters or TV shows, but also, creators of the game or people that work on it. So he starts with ambidextrous, which says survivor may treat all weapons as if they had the dual symbol. So that can make so it does mean you have to have two of the same things, but it means you can grab any two weapons and make them dual wielding. Not two separate ones, they still have to have the same name. Orange, we have +1 die for combat or +1 free ranged attack. And then in red, +1 die for combat, +1 free melee, or +1 free move. So he's very versatile. he can dual wield any weapons. You can either give him, between orange and red, you can give him +2 dice for combat, which can make his lot easier to hit. Or you could give him free range or free action or one combination of 4, or give him the ability to move around. So yeah, he's not super overpowered, but he's definitely going to let you do what you need to do with him, which is really fun. Alright, do that one. Ooh, I thought we were going to get all these done in one video. I think I lied a second time. I think we might have to do a third one, because we did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15 characters, and we have 1, 2, like 24, so we'll probably try and knock out a few more and get roughly 20 and 20. Otherwise, this is going to be like a 3-hour video. Alright, so we're going to look at Val here. Val is... I do not have a reference for Val. It is an alien-type character. Definitely cool. Don't really have any specified. She has lots of guns, though. Zooming on her. Got like a hood on the back. It's just kind of cool. But yeah, I don't have any list of a specific character this is supposed to be. But we have 1 zone per move. So +1 zone per move. When the survivor spends this action, they can move 1 or 2 zones instead of 1. This just gives an extra move, lets you move more. And then when they get to their orange, they have 1 die for combat, or Xenolink, which gives them that free activation. And then in red, 1 free combat action, ambidextrous, or 0G run. So all stuff we've seen. There's lots of stuff for getting around and doing actions. Again, not an overly powerful character, but definitely interesting. Gives you some different options instead of just attacking or moving around. Alright, let's hop into the next one. Alright, I think we'll do one more after this, and then we'll call that good for this video. We have Phaedra. Which I also don't have anything for this. You know, it's another alien-type character. Big old giant gun there, has a tail. Zoom up a little bit. Yeah, definitely neat. Alright, so it's 1 free move action. In orange, we have 1 die, +1 die for combat, and then we have Unstoppable. Unstoppable, it says the survivor does not spend extra actions they perform when they perform a move action out of a zone containing Xenos. Anchoring a zone still ends their turn. So they can move freely away from guys. They just have to end when they get in there. Then we also have 1 free combat action, +1 die roll, ranged, or camouflage. So this guy could be very well your mover around. Extra move action, Unstoppable lets them get out of there if they need to. And then camouflage, they can use to hide themselves. So this could be a good character if you're like, hey, we have objectives that are like deep in enemy lines that we have to try and get to, or we have to rush to as fast as possible. Just send this guy to run through. He gets near guys, he can just stop, drop, put his camouflage up. I know I talk about the reg abilities, even though they take a while to get there. But I think that if you just only looked at the first 2 abilities, lots of the characters wouldn't be as interesting. But yeah, it's definitely a neat character. Alright, so then the last character for this video, let's look at another soldier guy. We haven't seen too many of the armored guys yet. So here we have Lieutenant G High. G High is another one I don't have anything for, so I'm not really sure if this is a reference to. If we look at the miniature there, let's get this forward a little bit. There we go. Yeah, big old. Lots of these guys have that baton and gun. They kind of kept them with like their basic weapons, which is kind of neat. They tried to make them instead of giving like different exaggerated weapons. If you play the modern Zombicide, characters have all these different weapons because they have access to it throughout the game. This one, it's not so much. They're very basic weapons. We have Reaper Combat right off the bat. He's going all out. And then we have +1 guy for melee or 1 free ranged action. And then in Rag, we have +1 guy for ranged, +1 free melee action, or tough. So between red and orange, you can either kind of decide, do you want to boost up your melee, do you want to boost up your range, or do you want to kind of split the difference. Or if you need to, you can get tough at the end, which says survivor ignores the first damage they receive during the attack step and during friendly fire. So yeah, they could kind of get in for that ranged and take some. This might also be good if you're playing against some of these newer Xenos from this game, which have ranged abilities. Just because, he can still take damage from a distance. Alright, so that's what we have for the first one. It's about 20 characters. And then in part 3, we will finish up the last, I think, 20 or 21. So see you guys there. Bye.